Instead of just sending aid to build power plants, our Power Africa initiative is mobilizing billions of dollars. In investments from governments and businesses to reduce the number of Africans living without electricity. Now, an undertaking of this magnitude will not be quick. It will take many years. But working together, I believe we can bring electricity to more than 60 million. African homes and businesses and connect more Africans to the global economy. Instead of just telling Africa, you're on your own, in dealing with climate change. We're delivering new tools and financing to more than 40 African nations to help them prepare and adapt. By harnessing the wind and sun, your vast geothermal energy and rivers for hydropower. You can turn this climate threat into an economic opportunity. And I urge Africa to join us in rejecting old divides between North and South so we can forge a strong global climate agreement this year in Paris. Because sparing some of the world's poorest people from rising seas, more intense droughts. Shortages of water and food is a matter of survival and a matter of human dignity. Instead of just sending medicine, we're investing in better treatments and helping Africa prevent and treat diseases. As the United States continues to provide billions of dollars in the fight against HIV/AIDS. And as your countries take greater ownership of health programs. We're moving toward a historic accomplishment, the first AIDS-free generation. And if the world learned anything from Ebola, it's that the best way to prevent epidemics is To build strong public health systems that stop diseases from spreading in the first place. So America is proud to partner with the ON African countries in this mission. Today, I can announce that of the $1 billion that the United States is devoting to this work globally, half will support efforts here in Africa. I believe Africa's progress will also depend on democracy, because Africans like people everywhere, deserve the dignity of being in control of their own lives. We all know what the ingredients of real democracy are. They include free and fair elections, but also freedom of speech and the press. Freedom of assembly. These rights are universal. They're written into African constitutions. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights declares that every individual shall have the right to the respect of the dignity inherent in a human being. From Sierra Leone, Ghana, Benin, to Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, democracy has taken root. In Nigeria, more than 28 million voters bravely cast their ballots and power transferred as it should peacefully. Yet at this very moment, these same freedoms are denied to many Africans. And I have to proclaim, democracy is not just formal elections. When journalists are put behind bars for doing their jobs. Or activists are threatened as governments crack down on civil society, then you may have democracy in name, but not in substance. And this is true even for countries that have made important democratic progress. As I indicated during my visit to Kenya, the remarkable gains that country has made with the new constitution. With its election, cannot be jeopardized by restrictions on civil society. Likewise, our host, Ethiopians have much to be proud of. I've been amazed at all the wonderful work. That's being done here, and it's true that the elections that took place here occurred without violence. But as I discussed with Prime Minister Haile Mariam, that's just the start of democracy. I believe Ethiopia will not fully unleash the potential of its people if journalists, are restricted or legitimate opposition groups can't participate in the campaign process. And, to his credit, the Prime Minister acknowledged that more work will need to be done for Ethiopia to be a full-fledged, sustainable democracy. So these are conversations we have to have as friends. Our American democracy is not perfect. We've worked for many years, but one thing we do is we continually re-examine to figure out how can we make our democracy better. And that's a force of strength for us, being willing to look and see honestly. What we need to be doing to fulfill the promise of our founding documents. And every country has to go through that process. No country is perfect, but we have to be honest, and strive to expand freedoms, to broaden democracy. The bottom line is that when citizens cannot exercise their rights, the world has a responsibility to speak out. And America will, even if it's sometimes uncomfortable, even when it's sometimes directed toward our friends. And I know that there's some countries that don't say anything, and maybe that's easier for leaders to deal with. And I want to repeat, we do this not because we think our democracy is perfect. Or we think that every country has to follow precisely our path. For more than 2 centuries since our independence, we're still working on perfecting our union. We're not immune from criticism. When we fall short of our ideals, we strive to do better. But when we speak out for our principles, at home and abroad, we stay true to our values and we help lift up the lives of people beyond our borders. And we think that's important. And it's especially important, I believe. For those of us of African descent, because we've known what it feels like to be on the receiving end of injustice. We know what it means to be discriminated against. We know what it means to be jailed. So how can we stand by when it's happening to somebody else? I'll be frank with you, it can't just be America that's talking about these things. Fellow African countries have to talk about these things. Just as other countries championed your break from colonialism. Our nations must all raise our voices when universal rights are being denied. For if we truly believe that Africans are equal in dignity, then Africans have an equal right to freedoms that are universal. That's a principle we all have to defend. And it's not just a Western idea, it's a human idea. I have to also say that Africa's democratic progress is also At risk when leaders refuse to step aside when their terms end. Now, let me be honest with you, I do not understand this. So there's a lot that I'd like to do to keep America moving, but the law is the law. And no one person is above the law. Not even the president. And I'll be honest with you, I'm looking forward to life after being president. When a leader tries to change the rules in the middle of the game just to stay in office. It risks instability and strife, as we've seen in Burundi. And this is often just a first step down a perilous path. And sometimes you'll hear leaders say, well, I'm the only person who can hold this nation together. You look at Nelson Mandela Madiba, like George Washington, forged a lasting legacy not only because of what they did in office. But because they were willing to leave office and transfer power peacefully. And just as the African Union has condemned coups and illegitimate transfers of power, the OAS authority and strong voice can also help the people of Africa ensure that their leaders abide by term limits and their constitutions. Nobody should be president for life. And your country is better off if you have new blood and new ideas. I'm still a pretty young man. But I know that somebody with new energy and new insights will be good for my country. It will be good for yours, too, in some cases. Africa's progress will also depend on security and peace because an essential part of human dignity is being safe and free from fear. In Angola, Mozambique, Liberia, Sierra Leone, We've seen conflicts end and countries work to rebuild. But from Somalia and Nigeria to Mali and Tunisia, terrorists continue to target innocent civilians. Many of these groups claim the banner of religion. But hundreds of millions of African Muslims know that Islam means peace. And we must call groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIL, Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, we must call them what they are: murderers. In the face of threats, Africa and the African Union has shown leadership. Because of the force in Somalia. Al-Shabaab controls less territory and the Somali government is growing stronger. In Central Africa, the OLED mission continues to degrade the Lord's Resistance Army. In the Lake Chad Basin, forces from several nations with the backing of the are fighting to end Boko Haram's senseless brutality. And today, we salute all those who serve to protect the innocent, including so many brave African peacekeepers. Now, as Africa stands against terror and conflict, I want you to know that the United States stands with you. With training and support, we're helping African forces grow stronger. The United States is supporting the OAS efforts to strengthen peacekeeping. And we're working with countries in the region to deal with emerging crises with the African Peacekeeping Rapid Response Partnership. The world must do more to help as well. This fall at the United Nations, I will host a summit to secure new commitments. To strengthen international support for peacekeeping, including here in Africa. and building on commitments that originated here in the We'll work to develop a new partnership between the UN and the that can provide reliable support for peace operations. If African governments and international partners step up with strong support, we can transform how we work together to promote security and peace in Africa.